The night was silent on the edge of Colony 9. A soft wind blew across the barren desert, carrying dust that sparkled under the twin moons. Inside a small metal workshop stood Eli Ward, a human engineer living far from everyone else. His workshop was filled with broken machines, half-finished robots, and tools that hummed quietly. Eli liked it that way, quiet, peaceful, away from war and noise. He sat at his work table, tightening bolts on a small drone when the ground suddenly shook. A deep sound rolled across the desert, followed by a flash of blue light. The drone fell from his hands and clattered to the floor. Eli looked up through the window. Far in the distance, something was burning, orange and white against the dark horizon. Another meteor, he muttered. But this one felt different. The ground didn't just shake. It trembled with energy, like something alive had hit the surface. Without wasting time, Eli grabbed his jacket, a flashlight, and his old plasma rifle, just in case, and stepped out into the cold night. His boots crunched on dry sand as he made his way toward the crash. The smell of burnt metal filled the air long before he reached it. When he got closer, he saw twisted pieces of silver metal scattered in a large crater. Sparks jumped from broken circuits. Smoke curled upward, glowing blue in the moonlight. At the center of the wreck, something moved. Eli froze. His light caught a small figure lying among the wreckage. It wasn't human. The creature was small, maybe the size of a human child. Its skin was pale blue and seemed to shimmer faintly. Its large eyes blinked weakly, filled with pain and fear. Eli's heart pounded. He recognized the species at once. They were called the Varelians, an alien race that once fought humans in a terrible war 10 years ago. He almost stepped back. Every instinct screamed to stay away. But then he saw blood, or what looked like blood, a glowing silver liquid, pooling around the child. One of its arms was gone, torn off by the crash. Eli knelt beside it. Hey, easy now, he said softly. You're going to be okay. The alien made a faint sound like a whisper mixed with static. Eli didn't understand the words, but the tone was the same one he used to hear from his daughter when she was scared. He took a deep breath and carefully lifted the small body into his arms. It was lighter than he expected, almost weightless. Hang on, kid, he said. You're not dying on my watch. He carried the alien back to his workshop. Inside, he cleared a space on his table and gently laid the child down. Its breathing was shallow. Eli used a scanner to check for damage. The readings were strange, but he understood enough. Shock, blood loss, pain. He cleaned the wound and used a healing gel meant for human burns. The skin reacted differently, but it stopped the glowing blood from spreading. The child's eyes opened for a moment, staring up at him. Eli gave a small smile. Yeah, that's it. Stay with me. He noticed strange lines glowing under its skin, symbols that moved like light through glass. He had never seen anything like that before, but something about them made his heart feel heavy, as if those markings carried meaning, maybe even rank. Hours passed. The alien child finally fell asleep, its chest rising slowly. Eli sat beside it, tired but alert. He couldn't stop staring at the missing arm. The wound was clean but tragic. He thought about his old robotics equipment, the ones he used to build prosthetics for injured soldiers. He hadn't touched that work since the war ended. He sighed deeply. Guess I'm doing this again, he said to himself. For you, little one. As he prepared materials for a temporary arm frame, a faint light flickered on his radar screen. He frowned. The signal came from the direction of the crash site. Multiple readings, moving fast, ships. Someone's coming, he whispered. He turned back to the child. It stirred slightly, its single remaining hand clutching the edge of the table as if it knew what was happening. Eli placed a hand on its head gently. Don't worry. You're safe here. I won't let anyone hurt you. Outside, the wind howled louder. The sky lit up again, not from a crash, but from descending alien ships. He could see their sleek black shapes landing in the distance, lights flashing like stars falling from the heavens. Eli's mind raced. If those ships were Varelian rescue teams, they might not believe he helped their child. They might kill him on sight. But if they were scavengers or soldiers, the danger was even worse. He looked back at the sleeping child and felt something shift inside him. He had no family left, no one who cared if he lived or died. But this small being, helpless and alone, had chosen to survive in his care. He clenched his fists. Whatever happens, I'll protect you, he whispered. The radar beeped louder. The ships were close now. He turned off the lights, grabbed his rifle, and waited in the shadows of his workshop. Outside, the hum of alien engines grew stronger, shaking the ground again. A blue spotlight swept across his door. Eli took a deep breath. The night that began with silence was now filled with tension, and deep down he knew this was only the beginning. Eli didn't sleep that night. The alien ships had circled his outpost twice and then vanished into the dark, leaving behind a silence heavier than before, but he knew they would return, and soon. Inside the workshop, the blue-skinned child still lay on the metal table, breathing weakly. Its wound had closed a little thanks to Eli's med-gel, but the missing arm was a cruel sight. Every time Eli looked at it, he felt a mix of guilt and purpose. He sat beside the child, running a hand through his rough brown hair. "You're not dying here," he whispered. "Not after everything I've seen." He turned to his old shelves. Dusty boxes, cracked tools, and half-built machines waited there, reminders of a time when he had used his skills for soldiers, not for saving lives. Back during the Human-Varelian War, Eli had built mechanical limbs for wounded Marines, but after his daughter Lily was killed in one of the alien raids, he had quit. He couldn't bear to create anything again until now. He powered on his 3D printer and old assembly arm. Sparks flew as the machines came to life after years of silence. "One last job," he muttered. Hours passed. Eli scanned the child's nervous system and took careful measurements of the remaining shoulder joint. The structure was strange, not muscle and bone, but a kind of living metal mixed with energy veins. He studied it in awe. The Varelians were built differently, almost beautifully. "This is beyond human tech," he said softly. "But maybe I can match it." He began sketching designs on his digital pad. His fingers moved fast, guided by instinct. The limb he planned wasn't just mechanical, it would be light, responsive, and alive. A perfect balance between human engineering and alien biology. The machines whirred as he melted alloys and shaped the frame. He added a power core, small and glowing, the color of moonlight. Then came the circuits, fine as spider silk, connecting every piece to mimic nerves. For a moment, he forgot the danger outside. He forgot the ships and the war. It was just him, his tools, and the soft sound of a child breathing behind him. By the next morning, the prototype was ready. Sleek silver metal, shaped almost like a real arm with blue light pulsing through the veins. Eli felt a strange pride. "You'd like this, Lily," he whispered. "You always said my machines looked too human." He turned to the table. The child was awake now, sitting up weakly. Its large eyes glowed faintly. It looked at him, then at the arm. "Hey there," Eli said softly. "Don't be scared. It's for you." The child tilted its head, making a faint chiming sound. Eli guessed it was trying to speak. "Lyra," it whispered finally. Eli blinked. "Lyra, is that your name?" The child nodded slowly. A small smile appeared on its face, a fragile, pure thing that made the room feel warmer. "Okay, Lyra," Eli said. "Let's get you a new arm." He worked carefully, connecting the limb to Lyra's shoulder. She trembled but didn't resist. The connection points glowed bright blue as the circuits aligned. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then suddenly, the metal fingers twitched. Eli stepped back in surprise. "It's working," he breathed. Lyra looked at her new hand, flexing it slowly. The fingers moved smoothly, perfectly balanced. Light ran through the metal like veins of energy. She touched her chest, then her face, her eyes shining with wonder. Eli felt something inside him break, something heavy and dark that had been there for years. He laughed softly. "See? You're better than before." Lyra stood still unsteady and looked at him. Then she raised her new arm and touched his cheek gently. The gesture was innocent but filled with meaning. Gratitude, trust. "Yeah," Eli said, voice shaking. "You're welcome." But the moment didn't last long. A sudden beeping came from the radar again, louder this time. Multiple contacts, dozens. Eli froze. "No, not now." He rushed to the window. On the horizon, dark shapes moved against the rising sun. Alien ships, sleek, silent, deadly. The same royal markings glowed on their hulls that he had seen on Lyra's skin. Lyra followed his gaze. Her new arm glowed brighter, reacting to the energy outside. Her expression changed, fear mixed with recognition. "You know them, don't you?" Eli asked quietly. She nodded. Her voice was trembling but clear. "Mother!" Eli's stomach dropped. "Mother?" Before he could say more, the ground shook. A ship landed just beyond his workshop, throwing sand and smoke into the air. He shielded Lyra with his arm as the doors opened and tall alien figures stepped out, armored, armed, and moving with precision. One of them shouted something in a sharp, ringing language. Lyra gasped and clung to Eli's arm. Eli swallowed hard. "All right, kid. Looks like your family's here." He looked down at her new metal arm, shining softly in the dim light. "Let's hope they like what I made for you." The door of his workshop burst open with a blast of blue light, and standing there, taller than the rest, eyes like molten gold, was the one being he least expected to see. A queen. The door exploded in a flash of blue light. Metal shards flew across the workshop, slicing through the smoke. Eli ducked and covered Lyra with his body. When the air cleared, he slowly looked up. Silhouettes stood in the doorway, tall, armored, and glowing faintly under the rising sun. Their armor shimmered like liquid crystal, their eyes bright as fire. Alien soldiers, Varelians. Eli's heart pounded. His old instincts screamed at him to hide, but he stayed still. He could feel Lyra trembling behind him. One of the soldiers stepped forward, holding a weapon shaped like a long spear. The voice that came from the helmet was cold, mechanical, and powerful. "Human, step away from the child." Eli didn't move. "She's hurt. Don't point that thing at her." The soldier's armor pulsed once with light, as if scanning him. "You have no right to touch royal blood," it said. "Release her." Eli's mind froze on those words. Royal blood. He turned to look at Lyra. She sat on the floor, her new metal arm glowing softly. Her large eyes were full of fear, but also something else. Sadness. "Royal blood?" Eli whispered. "You're royalty." Before Lyra could answer, the sound of heavy footsteps filled the doorway. The soldiers straightened immediately, lowering their heads. A figure appeared behind them. Taller, graceful, surrounded by a faint golden light. Every soldier dropped to one knee. Eli just stared, speechless. The figure stepped forward, her presence almost unreal. She wore no helmet, only a crown of shifting light above her head. Her skin shimmered like polished stone, and her eyes, bright amber, glowed with both power and sorrow. The Varelian queen. She looked around the workshop, her gaze cold and sharp. Then her eyes settled on Lyra. For the first time, her face softened. "My daughter," she whispered. Lyra's voice was small, like a fading echo. "Mother." The queen stepped closer, kneeling beside the child. Her hand brushed Lyra's cheek, tracing the faint marks of injury. Then her gaze fell upon the new metallic arm. She froze, her golden eyes widened. "What have they done to you?" Eli raised his hand slightly. "I did it." She was dying. "I only wanted to help." The queen's expression changed instantly. She stood tall again, her voice sharp. "Help? You dared to alter royal flesh with human metal?" Her words struck like a whip. The soldiers lifted their weapons again, surrounding Eli. Lyra reached out, panic flashing in her glowing eyes. "No, he saved me." The queen looked down at her daughter, torn between love and rage. "He is human, my child. Their kind destroyed our cities. They took your father from us." Eli felt the weight of every word. He wanted to speak, but guilt closed his throat. He remembered the war, the destruction, the lives lost. Maybe she was right to hate him, but then Lyra stood, shaky but determined. Her new limb gleamed like silver fire. She stepped in front of him, spreading her small arms. "He fixed me. He made me whole again." The room went silent. Even the soldiers hesitated. The queen's eyes softened slightly. She looked at the mechanical limb again. The way it moved, the way it responded to Lyra's emotions, it wasn't a machine. It was alive. "You built this?" she asked quietly, turning to Eli. He nodded once. "I did." She would have died without it. The queen studied him for a long moment. "And you expected nothing in return?" Eli gave a small, tired smile. "I already lost a child once. I wasn't going to lose another." Something flickered in the queen's eyes, something deep, old, and human-like. But before she could answer, one of the soldiers stepped forward. "My queen, this human cannot be trusted. He may have implanted control mechanisms in the limb." The queen didn't respond. She looked at Lyra instead. "Does it obey you, my child?" Lyra flexed her arm. The metal fingers glowed bright blue. She made a fist, then opened it again. "It listens to my heart," she said softly. The queen stared at the movement, perfect, graceful, almost divine. The silence that followed felt like the world had stopped spinning. Finally, she turned to her soldiers. Stand down. The guards lowered their weapons, confused but obedient. Eli let out a slow breath. He didn't know whether to thank her or keep quiet. The Queen faced him again. You have done what even my royal engineers could not. You merged machine and spirit, he shrugged, still cautious. Just did what needed to be done. The Queen stepped closer, her gaze sharp again. Why? She asked. Why would a human help the daughter of his enemy? Eli met her eyes, calm but sad. Because she wasn't my enemy. She was a child. The Queen stared at him, silent for a long time. The air between them felt heavy with things unspoken. Pain, guilt, understanding. Then she turned away, her voice barely above a whisper. You may not realize it, human, but you have changed everything. Eli frowned. Changed what? The Queen looked back at him, her golden eyes burning with emotion. You have forced me to question what I once believed about your kind. She raised her hand and her guards stepped aside. You will come with us to the royal fleet. The council must see this creation. Eli hesitated. If I refuse? The Queen's lips curved faintly. Then we will take you anyway. Outside, engines roared as more ships landed, casting long shadows over the desert. Lyra took Eli's hand tightly, her new metal fingers trembling. Don't be afraid, she whispered. Eli managed a faint smile. Too late for that, kid. The Queen watched them both, her expression unreadable. Then she said almost softly, Take them aboard. And as the sun rose behind the alien ships, Eli realized he was no longer just an engineer. He was part of something much greater and much more dangerous. The alien ship was nothing like Eli had ever seen. It wasn't built with metal and wires like human vessels. It seemed grown, alive, pulsing with soft blue light that moved like veins. The walls hummed faintly, almost breathing. Eli stood inside the vast chamber surrounded by royal guards. Every one of them watched him as though he were a wild animal. Lyra stood beside him, her small hand gripping his coat tightly. Her new arm shimmered gently, the glow reflecting off the polished floor. At the far end of the room sat the Queen, tall, silent, her golden eyes fixed on him. The crown of shifting light above her head cast strange reflections that danced across the walls. When she spoke, her voice filled the entire hall. Eli Ward, human engineer. You have touched royal blood. You have altered the form of my daughter. And yet, she paused, studying the glowing limb. You have given her back what even our healers could not restore. Her words carried both respect and warning. Eli stayed quiet. He had faced generals, soldiers, and monsters during the war, but this woman, this Queen, frightened him more than all of them. I didn't mean disrespect, he said finally. She needed help. That's all. The Queen tilted her head slightly. You acted without permission. You shaped flesh that is sacred among my kind. Lyra stepped forward quickly. He saved me, Mother. I was dying. The Queen looked down at her daughter with eyes full of love and sorrow. And now you live, she whispered. But what have you become? The question cut through the air. Eli felt the sting of it too. For a moment, guilt flickered in his chest. Was he wrong to act without understanding? Was his help really help, or a mistake born from guilt? He looked at Lyra's face, bright with life, and his doubt faded. She's still herself, he said firmly. Metal or flesh doesn't change who we are. The guards shifted uneasily. One of them stepped forward and bowed to the Queen. My Queen, this human's words are deceit. He may be using the device to control the princess. I suggest we remove the limb for inspection. Lyra's eyes widened with fear. She clutched her arm tightly. No. Eli moved before he could stop himself, standing protectively in front of her. You're not taking it off her, he said, his voice low but steady. Every guard raised their weapons instantly. The Queen lifted a single hand and the room went silent again. You dare to stand against royal command? She asked, almost amused. Eli didn't flinch. I dare to stop a mistake. For a moment, she only stared at him. Then surprisingly, she smiled, a small, curious smile. You speak as though her life belongs to you. He shook his head. No, it belongs to her. And no one, not even a queen, should take it away. Silence stretched across the hall. The Queen rose slowly from her throne and descended the steps. The guards bowed as she passed, her robes moving like flowing light. She stopped in front of Eli. Up close, he could see her face clearly. She was beautiful, yes, but there was something weary in her eyes, like someone who had seen too much loss. She reached out and touched Lyra's arm gently. The metal shimmered beneath her fingers, responding to her touch. The queen frowned, whispering something in her own language. The limb pulsed once with soft light. Then she looked back at Eli. This creation, it answers her will, not yours. There is no control code, no trap. Eli gave a small nod. Told you. It's hers. The queen stepped back, her face unreadable. You built something alive, human. You turned machine into spirit. I built what she needed, Eli said. That's all. The queen's gaze lingered on him for a long time. Then she turned to her guards. Leave us. They hesitated but obeyed, marching out until only the three of them remained. The queen looked at Eli again, her voice softer now. You have done what our best engineers could not. You built hope. Tell me why. Eli exhaled slowly. Because I once had a daughter. She died in the war. One your people started, maybe one we did. I stopped building after that. I thought I'd never fix anything again. But when I found Lyra, I saw her lying there so small, so scared I couldn't walk away. Maybe I just didn't want to fail another child. For the first time, the queen's expression broke. Her eyes shimmered, not with anger, but with grief. She looked at Lyra, who stood beside him quietly, her small hand resting on his. You lost a child, the queen whispered. So did I. The room fell silent again, filled only with the soft hum of the ship. After a long pause, she said, You have saved my daughter's life. For that, I owe you thanks. But the council will not see it that way. They will call it corruption, an offense to royal blood. They will demand your death. Eli met her gaze calmly. Then they can take it, but I'd do it again. The queen looked at him long and hard, her expression shifting, anger melting into something that almost looked like respect. Finally, she said, You are either the bravest fool I've met, or the first human worth trusting. She turned to her daughter and said softly, Stay with him. Learn from him. Then to Eli, Tomorrow the council will see your creation. What happens next will decide the future of both our kinds. As she walked away, the golden light around her flickered like a dying star. Eli stood there in silence, the weight of her words pressing down on him. He looked at Lyra. Guess we're in trouble again, huh? Lyra smiled faintly, her metal fingers curling around his hand. Together, she said. Eli nodded, staring out at the alien sky beyond the window. Yeah, together. Outside, the stars shifted, and somewhere deep inside the ship, engines began to hum. Tomorrow would bring judgment, and maybe a chance for something more. The next day came slowly, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Eli stood before a tall mirror in the chamber given to him, a clean, glowing room made of living walls that pulsed softly like a heartbeat. His reflection looked tired, dark circles under his eyes, grease stains still on his hands, and a heavy heart that hadn't rested since the crash. He adjusted the collar of his worn jacket and sighed. You've really done it this time, Eli, he murmured. Saved an alien princess, angered a queen, and now walking straight into their council. Brilliant. Behind him, Lyra sat quietly on the edge of the bed, her legs swinging back and forth. Her new metal arm glowed gently as she traced lines in the air. She looked stronger now, healthier. But there was worry in her bright blue eyes. Are you afraid? She asked softly. Eli smiled faintly. Terrified. Then why go? He turned to her, kneeling so they were face to face. Because sometimes, Lyra, being afraid doesn't mean you run away. It means what you're doing actually matters. She nodded, though she didn't quite understand. The grand hall of the Varelian Council was beyond imagination. It stretched, higher than any human cathedral, its ceiling filled with floating lights that moved like stars in slow motion. The walls shimmered with images of ancient wars and triumphs, paintings that seemed alive. At the center sat the queen, her presence glowing like a small sun. Around her stood 12 council members, their robes of silver and blue, their faces hidden behind thin veils. The air was heavy, full of power and judgment. Guards escorted Eli and Lyra into the center. Every step echoed. Lyra clung to his side, her hand cold but firm. One of the counselors spoke first, voice echoing like metal. "This human has broken sacred law. He altered the royal child's form. Such an act demands punishment." Another added sharply, "The creation itself may be a weapon. It must be removed and examined." The queen raised a hand, silencing them. "Enough. We will hear from the human himself." Eli felt every eye in the room turn toward him. For a moment he didn't know what to say. What words could reach across worlds? He took a deep breath. "I didn't come here to defend myself," he began. "I came here because your daughter is alive, and that's all that should matter." The counselor's eyes narrowed. "You speak boldly for a destroyer of worlds." Eli frowned. "You think we're all destroyers? Maybe you're right. Humanity has done terrible things. We've started wars, ruined planets, and hurt our own kind too. But that's not all we are." He stepped forward slowly, voice steady. "We also build. We create. We care. When someone's hurt, enemy or not, we help. Because that's what makes us human." The queen watched him silently, her golden eyes unreadable. Eli continued. "When I found Lyra, she wasn't a princess to me. She was just a child, scared, alone, dying. I didn't see a war or a bloodline. I saw my daughter." A hush fell over the chamber. Even the humming walls seemed to pause. The queen's expression softened, just slightly. "You had a daughter?" "Yes," Eli said quietly. "Her name was Lily. She was about Lyra's age when she died. A Varelian ship bombed the outpost where she was hiding. I never blamed just your people. I blamed the war, the hate that kept it alive. Saving Lyra." His voice cracked for a second. "It was the first time I felt I could make something right again." The counselors whispered among themselves. Some looked doubtful, others curious. The queen stood slowly. "You speak of compassion, yet your kind's history is one of destruction." Eli nodded. "Maybe. But compassion doesn't erase mistakes, it grows from them. Every species has light and dark. You saw what I built for Lyra. That wasn't just metal. That was hope." Lyra lifted her mechanical arm then, showing it proudly. The soft light running through it pulsed like a heartbeat. "It listens to me," she said. "It's part of me. He didn't hurt me. He saved me." The queen looked at her daughter for a long, quiet moment. The room seemed to breathe with her. Finally she spoke again, her voice softer. "You have given my daughter life, human. But you have also given me something I thought I had lost. Faith." One of the counselors objected sharply. "My queen." "This is dangerous sentiment. The humans—" "Enough," she commanded. Her voice echoed like thunder. "This man has done what our healers could not. He saw no enemy, only life. I will not punish such a heart." The council fell silent, unwilling to argue further. The queen turned to Eli again. "You spoke of rebuilding. If you truly believe your kind can create more than destroy, then prove it." Eli blinked. "How?" "Help us," she said simply. "Our people still suffer from the war. Build for them what you built for my daughter." Eli hesitated.
"You're asking me to build for your people? The same people who would have killed me a day ago?" The queen smiled faintly. "Perhaps peace must begin with someone foolish enough to try." He looked at Lyra, who was smiling through bright eyes.
Then he looked back at the queen and nodded slowly. "All right, I'll help. But I'll build only one thing, hope, no weapons, ever again." The queen inclined her head. "Agreed." The hall glowed brighter, as though the ship itself approved. Lyra grabbed his hand, her metal fingers warm this time, "You see?" she whispered. "You changed her heart." Eli smiled tiredly. "Maybe. Or maybe she just remembered she had one." As they walked out of the council hall, the queen's voice followed softly behind them. "Remember this day, human. It may be the day our worlds begin again. Eli looked back once, eyes filled with wonder and disbelief. The war between humans and Varelians had lasted decades, but in that single moment, with a child's hand in his, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Days passed inside the Varelian royal fleet. For the first time since the crash, there was no running, no fear, only silence and work. Eli spent his days inside vast, glowing chambers, surrounded by alien scientists who watched him with curiosity and suspicion. He taught them how his machines worked, how metal could respond like muscle, how circuits could move like nerves. At first, they didn't believe a human could create something so delicate. But when Lyra raised her metal arm and waved at them, with a shy smile, even the proudest engineers lowered their heads in respect. Still, Eli felt uneasy. He wasn't sure if he was a guest or a prisoner. One morning, a pair of guards arrived at his door. "The Queen requests your presence," one said. Eli wiped the oil from his hands. "When?" "Now." The Queen's chamber was wide and bright, with a ceiling of shifting crystal that reflected the stars outside. The air smelled faintly of burning silver, a scent Eli had come to recognize as Varelian incense. The Queen stood near the large window, her back turned to him, watching the stars drift slowly beyond the glass. Lyra sat nearby, busy drawing strange glowing shapes in the air with her robotic fingers. "Your daughter's doing well," Eli said softly. The Queen turned, her golden eyes meeting his. "Yes, thanks to you." Eli nodded awkwardly. Compliments always made him uncomfortable. "So, why did you call me here?" The Queen took a slow step toward him. "I have an offer for you, human." Eli folded his arms. "I'm listening." She gestured toward the stars outside. "Our world is broken. The war left thousands without limbs, without hope. Your creation for Lyra proved something to me. Machines and flesh can live as one. You can give my people their lives back." Eli stared at her, speechless for a moment. "You want me to build more arms? For all of them?" "Yes," she said simply. "For the wounded, the forgotten, the ones who survived but no longer live." Eli looked down at his hands, the same hands that once built weapons for soldiers, that once brought more pain than healing. Now the Queen of his former enemy was asking him to use them for something different. He wanted to say yes, but fear whispered in the back of his mind. "If I do this," he said carefully, "humans might see me as a traitor. They still remember the war. They won't understand." The Queen's eyes softened. "Then let them hate you." "History forgets hatred faster than it forgets miracles." Eli gave a quiet laugh. "You sound more human than most humans." "Perhaps suffering makes us all the same," she replied. Lyra looked up from her drawings. "Eli, will you help us?" she asked, her voice gentle but full of hope. "There are children like me, hurt, scared. You can fix them." Her words pierced through his doubt. He had once promised himself never to build again. But maybe this wasn't building for war, this was building for peace. "All right," he said at last. "I'll help. But on one condition." The Queen raised an eyebrow. "Name it." "No weapons," Eli said firmly. "No designs that can harm. I'll build arms, legs, hearts, but never tools of death again." The Queen nodded slowly. "Agreed. You have my word." For the first time since he met her, Eli smiled without hesitation. "Then let's get started." Weeks turned into months. Eli worked side by side with Varelian scientists, blending human technology with alien biology. Together they crafted new limbs, stronger than steel, softer than skin. Every new creation brought laughter back into faces that had long forgotten how to smile. Lyra helped him every day, learning how to adjust power cores, polish joints, and connect neural threads. She was bright, full of questions, full of life. Watching her work, Eli often thought, Lily would have liked her, but not everyone shared their joy. Some in the Queen's court whispered that the human was a trickster, a spy in disguise. Others believed his inventions would weaken the royal bloodline. Rumors spread like poison, and even among the guards there were eyes that followed him with hatred. The Queen warned him quietly one night, her voice heavy with concern. "Not all my people want peace, Eli. There are those who wish to see this alliance fail. Eli looked up from his workbench. I've lived long enough to know that peace always has enemies. And if they come for you? She asked. He smiled faintly. Then they'll have to go through my student first. Lyra grinned proudly, raising her glowing arm like a badge of strength. They'll never win, Mother. The Queen smiled sadly. Let us hope not. That night, as Eli sat alone in his quarters sketching new designs, a faint vibration ran through the floor. He frowned. The hum was wrong, too sharp, too fast. A warning. He checked the scanners. A strange signal pulsed from deep within the ship, one that wasn't supposed to exist. A weapon system reactivated. His stomach turned cold. Someone was sabotaging their work. Before he could react, the lights flickered. The air shifted, humming with tension. Outside his door, shadows moved. Voices whispered. The faint clink of armor echoed through the hall. Eli quietly reached for the small plasma cutter on his desk, his heart pounding. Not all want peace. The Queen's words echoed in his mind. He looked toward Lyra's sleeping form across the room and felt his jaw tighten. Whatever storm was coming, he knew one thing for certain. He would protect that child, no matter the cost. The alarm began as a low hum, almost like a heartbeat. Then it grew faster, sharper, angry. Red lights pulsed through the corridors of the royal flagship. Eli shot up from his chair, heart pounding. He grabbed his plasma cutter and ran toward the workshop door. Something wasn't right. The ship was too quiet between the alarms. No footsteps, no orders, only silence. That kind of silence meant danger. Across the room, Lyra stirred from sleep. Her eyes glowed faintly, confused. Eli, what's happening? He kept his voice calm, though his pulse raced. Stay close to me, kid. Something's wrong. He checked the radar. 3 energy signatures moving fast through the lower decks. Each one carried a power core strong enough to light an entire city. Or destroy one. Sabotage. The Queen had warned him this could happen. There were those who hated the peace, who thought helping a human was a crime against their gods. Now they had come for him. Eli looked at Lyra. We have to warn your mother. Before she could respond, a deafening explosion tore through the corridor. The floor shook violently and sparks rained from the ceiling. Smoke filled the air, thick and bitter. Eli grabbed Lyra's hand and ran. The doors opened and closed in bursts as fire alarms blared. Behind them, another blast roared, throwing them forward. Lyra stumbled, but Eli pulled her up before she fell. They turned a corner and stopped cold. 3 Varelian soldiers stood blocking the path. Armor dark and cracked, their symbols scratched off. Rebels. The one in front stepped forward, his voice low and bitter. The Queen's mercy has weakened us. And you, human. You poisoned her mind. Eli held Lyra behind him. Listen, I didn't come here to fight. Whatever you're planning, it'll hurt more than me. The soldier raised a glowing sphere. A bomb. Exactly. He threw it, time slowed. Eli shoved Lyra aside, diving over her as the blast tore through the hallway. The shockwave sent them both flying. His ears rang. His vision went white. When the smoke cleared, Eli coughed, crawling toward the small figure beside him. Lyra! She was lying still, the edges of her dress burned. Her new arm sparked wildly, wires exposed. He reached her side and checked. She was breathing, but barely. He tried to lift her, but pain shot through his own shoulder. Blood ran down his arm. Still, he forced himself up. Come on, stay with me, he whispered. You're going to be okay. Lyra's eyes fluttered open. Her voice was faint. It hurts. I know, Eli said, forcing a smile. You're tougher than you think. The rebel stepped closer through the smoke. You should have stayed dead on your own planet, human. Eli stood in front of her again, gripping the plasma cutter in his trembling hand. You want me? Fine, leave her out of it. The lead rebel sneered. You think your machines make you brave? No, Eli said. She does. Before they could fire, Lyra pushed herself up, her mechanical arm glowing brighter than ever. The light spread through the hall, humming with energy. She looked at Eli, tears in her eyes. Get back. Lyra, don't. Too late. She slammed her metallic hand against the floor, releasing a shockwave of blue energy. The explosion wasn't of destruction, it was pure force. The rebels were thrown backward, their armor shattered. The blast echoed like thunder. Eli shielded his face. When the light faded, Lyra was on the ground again, her arm cracked, smoke rising from the joints. He fell to his knees beside her. No. Stay with me. Her voice was barely a whisper. Did I save you? He nodded, holding her tightly. Yeah, you saved me. You saved everyone. Her glowing eyes dimmed slightly, but a small smile remained. You fixed me once. You can fix me again, right? His throat tightened. Yeah, he said softly. I promise. At that moment, the queen arrived with her guards. She froze at the sight, the smoke, the bodies, the human cradling her daughter. Her voice broke. Lyra! Eli looked up, his face streaked with soot and tears. She stopped them. She saved us. The queen knelt beside them, her hands trembling as she touched her daughter's face. My brave one? Lyra's arm flickered faintly, then went dark. Eli felt a wave of dread, but before despair could take hold, the queen turned to him. You gave her this power, she whispered. You gave her the strength to protect what even I could not. Eli shook his head. She had that strength long before I built anything. The queen rose slowly, her golden eyes burning brighter than ever. These rebels will answer for this. But your promise, your work, must not die with them. You will finish what you started, Eli Ward. For her, for both our worlds. He looked at the child in his arms, her peaceful face glowing faintly in the flicker of firelight. I'll finish it, he said quietly. For her. Months later, the warships of both species floated side by side in the skies of a new colony world. Humans and Varelians worked together, fitting new limbs, new hearts, new beginnings. Eli stood among them, his hands covered in metal dust, his eyes on the stars. Beside him, the queen placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. She would have been proud, she said softly. He smiled faintly. She is. Above them, the first joint peace vessel lifted into orbit, a ship named Lyra's Promise. Eli watched it disappear into the night sky, whispering, maybe this time, we built something worth saving.